So for the last few years, I've been trying to be as productive as possible and trying to get my productivity really to a pretty new level. And I've been always focusing on small hacks or little tricks or, different things that people do to try and get as productive as possible. And I think I've got it to the point now where I'm pretty happy with the level of productivity that I have, and it's way, way higher than it used to be. And I'm gonna go through this in this video so that if you're not at a level of productivity that you want to be at, then you will be by the end of this video. And so if you don't know who I am, my name is Ben Lister, and I help agency owners, business owners by documenting all my learnings right here on this YouTube channel, which currently help me to make multi-six figures per year. And so what I want to focus on today is the fact that when people talk about productivity, it's always a new app. It's always maybe a different calendar. It's a different schedule for the day. It's this app that it tracks your what you do on your computer. So like AI will summarize it for the day or something like that, right? But what I've actually realized is that productivity doesn't come from any specific one trick or a specific hack or a software. It actually just comes down to how much stuff you do in a day. And what I mean by that is not just specifically with your work, but what your day-to-day life looks like. So what's starting to happen is when, for example, I'm trying to build my business and I'm trying to focus on a certain task, I might have something else that's going on, right? Let's say like going to the gym, or let's say like, maintaining my relationships, right? Dropping in with people that I know and speaking to people that I know. Or it might be a certain sport that I'm trying, right? On a certain weeknight or something like that. All of these things that you're adding in, they slowly start to creep up, right? And if they're productive things, if they're things that are, either for your health or your business or your family, then it makes a lot of sense to do those, right? I would never really advocate for getting rid of those, especially if that's what your goals are, which a lot of people will be. But when it comes to different things, like maybe a TV show you're watching, maybe a sport you're keeping up to date with, maybe it's just something stupid like, reading the news or social media or something like that. What I've started to realize is that your productivity doesn't come by how well you actually implement the 8 hours or the 10 hours of work that you do per day. It actually comes by what you do outside of that. And so what I recently did a couple months ago back, actually, my girlfriend's family are a little bit more religious than my family was, right? And one thing that they usually do is they give something up for Lent, which is over the Easter period or just before the Easter period. It's like a 4 or 5 week window where you give something up. And the idea is a lot of people give up some kind of food, some kind of unhealthy thing. And at the end, they're allowed to have it after like a 4 week period. And I don't really know the specific religious reasons of it. But she asked me, what am I giving up for it? And I'd never really done anything like this. And so I was like, to be honest, I've been watching a lot more YouTube than I have been lately. So I'm going to give up watching YouTube. And they all kind of laughed at me and thought this was like kind of stupid. It's not really what it's about. But I thought, you know what? Like, I've been watching too much YouTube. I spend probably like an hour a day on it at this point. And I was like, you know what? I can cut that out and I could just focus on something else. And when I actually went and did this, and the first few days was kind of like I was in this normal response where I was trying to open up the YouTube channel and I was trying to, watch a random video. And, a lot of the stuff that I watch is like somewhat educational, but obviously there's a lot of stuff in there that just isn't to do with anything to do with business. It's just not productive. And I had this response where I was just clicking on YouTube and I was on like a break or something like that. And eventually it started to go. Now, the cool thing about this is that eventually I lost that habit of trying to click on YouTube and trying to open up the thing that I was doing, whatever was distracting me, pretty quickly. But the 4 weeks went by like quite quickly and I didn't really notice it all that much. But the cool thing is that I realized at the end of this that by me adding on something, removing something from my life, I didn't actually notice it all that much. I did initially because it was a big change, and obviously, I'm just used to on my lunch break, I'm making my food and then watching like 30 minutes of YouTube, right? But instead, what I was now doing was either going for a walk or maybe just trying to plan my afternoon or something else like that. And so that then became the norm. And so when it came to realizing that like Lent was now over and I could go on YouTube if I wanted to, I just didn't want to all that much. And I realized that like actually this thing that had a bit of a hold on my life and a bit of, I was kind of a bit of a slave to it. Now I don't actually need this at all. And I don't really feel the downside of not having it at all because of course it's not productive, right? I don't really feel like relaxed by it or there's no major benefit to it. And so whatever it is that's holding you back, whether it's a social media addiction, whether it's the fact that you drink, energy drinks in the middle of the day, whether it's the fact that, you eat junk food on every single day or something like that, right? When you eventually get used to that initial period of maybe like 7 days when you cut it out, you'll very quickly realize that you don't need this at all, right? Whether this is, drinking alcohol, whether this is eating fast food, whether this is reading the news or whatever it may be. Once you cut it out, you'll very quickly realize, especially if you're conscientious, and like 99% of people who watch these YouTube videos are, because you wouldn't be watching YouTube videos about productivity and focus if you weren't conscientious in some kind of way, then these things just slowly die away. You don't feel the need to do these anymore at all. And eventually you just focus on what I consider to be the three main pillars, which is just business, family, and health, right? And business might just be, you know, your financial situation or something like that, right? And so you can start to put more time into these slots, and that's how you get more productive. It's not about having, you know, this calendar that tracks all your stuff. It's not about having a focus app, right, that removes all the distractions on your screen. I'm sure they do help in some capacity, but the number one thing is, if you've got all these things going on, if you've got all these distractions, if you have, you know, different scheduled meetings that don't really add up to anything productive, if you have things that are just holding you back, that are like, you know, some kind of vice, like you know, energy drinks or social media or junk food or anything like that, then slowly starting to remove these out, and doing this all at once would probably kill you, to be honest with you. It'd probably be too much of a change to actually handle. But if you just slowly remove them out, eventually you realize that you never actually needed them. And I look back on times in my life where I was more involved in, let's say, certain sports than I am now. So for example, I used to like really love watching like F1 and keeping up to date with like F1 news and stuff like that. And so like every day I would read like a website that had specific F1 articles on there. And I used to spend, you know, maybe like 30-45 minutes like reading up this kind of stuff every single day. And now I don't do it at all, and I don't feel a need to do that at all, because it's now, it's gone now, right? I you know, that dopamine reaction, or that dopamine that I was getting from that, is now so far gone that I don't actually associate any sort of dopamine with that, because I haven't done it for months, right? And all these things, like, you know, all the different things that I spoke about, if you just slowly remove them one by one, eventually you're just going to have nothing left to do apart from focus on those three main things, which of course everyone wants to focus on, and you don't actually regret focusing on them. The big thing that I always say when it comes to like health and fitness especially, is that every time you do a workout, you don't really regret doing that workout. But every time you miss a workout, you do regret missing that, right? And so there's things in life, which is business, which is, you know, health, which is family. You never ever regret spending time on those things. But what you do regret spending time on is things that aren't productive, right? Things like YouTube, things like social media, things like reading the news, things like eating junk food, things like energy drinks, whatever it may be. I'm sure you can think of specific vices that you have in your life which don't add any sort of productivity to your life. Removing those, you're going to have no regrets at all, and you'll very, very quickly realize that. And so once you start to remove them, it's going to be very, very easy to just keep removing them, and you never have to worry about them again. But yeah, that's the video. That's basically how I'm going through things, and I've just realized I've become a lot more productive in the last year or so. But yeah, if you are looking for more clients for your agency, click the first link in the description. I don't care if you click it or not, it doesn't really affect me or not. It's just a video of me explaining what my company does and how we do this, and how we've done this many times before. But yeah, if you like the video, like it, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.